Hello everyone, welcome to the GeoEcologist. I am Dr. Krishnanand and you have been watching my videos on geographical thought and perspectives in human geography. So in this session, we are going to learn about the concept of existentialism. So what is this existence all about and where this concept comes from and how it is relevant in humanistic geography and other forms of geography. So let's learn about this in today's session. But before we go ahead, please like and subscribe to our channel and don't forget to share this with others as well. So now let's learn about another approach in geographical thought, especially in the modern themes that we see is existentialism. So the word is coming from existence. So what is this existence all about? This is basically a foundational philosophy which was founded during 20th century. So the philosophy emphasizes on human beings can make their own identity and create their own world by making their own choices. So if you read this statement, remember it's talking about the existence of human beings based on their identity and how this identity is built, how they choose to be. So their choices. So the choices that we talk about is what makes a human being. So this is one of the statements that we see many people, many celebrities, many of us talking every day, that whatever you choose, you become. So remember, this is basically line coming from this philosophy of existentialism, that whatever you will choose to be, you will become. So that is important. That's why one's own identity is based on the choices one's make. So human being is definitely not what? A machine. So remember, the models of positivism, the models of quantification talked in a way where human beings were just considered machine. So in this approach, it is important that human beings are free to make these choices and develop their identity. That is where existence of human beings matter. So at the beginning of a human being is nothing. So remember, when we are born as human beings, we are nothing. But by choices gradually, what we make in our life, we become. So this was the crux of this existentialism. So by choices they make further in their life, a human being will become something out of that nothing. So this something out of this nothing concept, the theory of nothingness, this is the basic ideology behind this approach of existentialism. They become a real person who is different from all other persons in life. By making choices, they create a life with meaning. That's why there are many taglines like choose wisely and live well. So this is basically an existential philosophy. Now, existentialism is closely identified with a great philosopher, scholar, Sartre. So Jean-Paul Sartre, existential thinkers influenced by this ideology of existentialism have in common the belief that existence comes before essence. Now remember, this existence comes before essence is important. So Sartre explains that first, a human being is in the existence stage only. So then they only exist because they are born, but don't have any identity. Remember, their own identity is not there when they are born. So what happens? They are known by their parents' identity, their family's identity. So that is where it is important that their own existence only comes to the picture when they themselves start practicing in their space. They started choosing their life and making their lives. So that is where this philosophy points at. So but then they become a real person, a real human being by things they do, they practice. So what we see here is that practice of this space is what makes human beings real beings, their identity. So the choices that they make. So what this statement says further, you are what you do. A man is nothing else but that which he makes of himself. So a man what makes of himself, what man has made of man, if you see in the words of William Wordsworth as well. So Sartre's introduction to the philosophy in his work Existentialism is a humanism. So this was important as it was carried by further Tuan in his work that we say, that is humanistic geography, and we have already learnt about it. So existentialism, that's why it became the core aspect of the humanistic geography as well. Further, what we see is that in existential geography, a central concept is of that of existential space. So space is basically existential in nature now. So according to Samuel, another scholar, it is the assignment of space that is important. Such an assignment is a result of what? Human reality. Assignment is what is the practice on that space. So that's why it becomes important. So existentialism has been considered as an endeavor on the one hand to restore the concrete immediate experience of existence in situ to the realm of knowledge, and on the other hand to bridge the logical gap that separates subjective from objective, idealism from materialism, essence from existence. So it tries to bridge this gap. The existence is not isolated. It is actually this bridging of this gap, the overlapping of this subjectivity as well as objectivity, idealism as well as materialism, essence as well as existence. So this entire absolute existence cannot be there only in the one hand of the endeavor or the experience part only. So it is based on existence comes before essence. This phrase means man first of all exists, encounters himself, surges up in the world and defines himself afterwards. So that is important. It talks about the building of a personality as an individual and then gradually influencing the space around that individual through the actions that you have chosen to do. So that's important. So this also means that to understand man, we must first of all understand to begin with the subjective life, and man is nothing else but which choices that he makes for himself. So these two statements are always there revolving around the concept of this existential geography or existential spaces. Now, the first principle of existentialism is once you are thrown into this world, that is whenever a man is born, after that, whatever he does is his responsibility. That is what he will be actually ascribed to as his identity. So he's responsible for everything else that he does. So existence comes before essence as it were, because man is free. So if man is not free, if man is being dominated by somebody, if man is under influence, then this idea of existence is under question. So if you remember the slavery, the slave system, so that is where it is important that if a man is ruled by the other man, if a man is ruled by somebody else, a domination is there. So it means a free man is being chained and then his existence is under the question. So in brief, existentialism is a philosophical view declaring that man is responsible for making his own nature, and if man is not a free man, then this part of making his own nature and influencing his space will not be there in its reality. So as said earlier, it lays stress on personal freedom, personal decision and personal commitment. So remember these three things: personal freedom, personal decision making and personal commitment. So you may have seen many people talking about this freedom, my decision, my choices, and my commitment. What is this thought process of a free man, all right, of a free human being? What does this bring to the fore? It talks about the existence and its meaning. So basically it emphatically argues that we are along with no excuses. So a man cannot give excuses because he or she is responsible for the things that they choose and the identities that they make. The essential argument basically rejects. What does it reject? Any sentiment that would abandon man to nature, so making him the product of his environment. So remember the idea that man is a product of environment, man is just a product. So remember, it negates, it rejects that idea. So existentialism provides a firm foundation for the philosophy of human geography that we see. That's why existentialism, pragmatism, we find the essence of all these things in the concept that we studied in humanistic geography. Furthermore, the operative principle, that is the second principle of the existential logic, that man expresses himself as a whole in even his most insignificant behavior. Even his little behavior, man expresses whatever is his completeness. So in other words, there is not a taste, a mannerism or a human act which is not revealing. A man's thought process, his belief, his taste, his mannerism, his act, that is all revealing about this existence, his choices. So remember, that is important. That's how the space is shaped. That's why in humanistic geography we talk about this existential logic. So an existential method is one that endeavors to decipher, to decode that total expression. So what we see here is that if a person is doing something, is choosing to do something, it just not ends there. The choices that he's making has this analysis, it has its expressions. Why a particular human being behaves in that way? Why is that mannerism in that way? What is this expression all about? So remember, it has to do by being subjective. So human beings are subjective beings. To begin with, subjective means that man first of all exists, encounter himself, surges up in the world and defines him afterwards. But remember, it's all in subjectivity. So in the process, man's inward attitude, the way in which he contemplates his world, he thinks about the pros and cons and grows aware of it. The essential value of his satisfaction are the origins of what he actually does. So if we are concerned about this place making here in humanistic geography, that what a man does, it is not as simple. We have to understand this inner attitude. We have to understand how this man contemplates his world, how he grows aware of it, what are the essential value for his satisfaction. Then we can understand why a man chooses that thing. So what we see is that in existential method, in short, the examination of the centers, people, that is in particular individuals, occupy the way they define their relationship with the world that we have studied. So it begins with analysis of existential space. Furthermore, the methods entail the existential psychoanalysis. So largely coming from the psychological analysis of human being, this method finds a place in geography. So the essence of existential geography is that for every landscape that we see, or for every existential geography, there is someone who can be held responsible and accountable because of somebody, because of people. Remember, because of people's behavior, those attributes, those choices, a particular landscape that we talk in human geography exists in that particular way. So the responsibility may lie on individuals or groups, whether sane or insane, rational or irrational, well-intended or demonic. The fact is that they make their choices and their landscape. So landscape is the function of the choices, if we say, here in existential philosophy. So to summarize, existential geography places the greatest emphasis on human core of existence. The main advantage of this philosophy is what? That it gives that anthropocentric approach a prime importance in shaping the space, the human space. So it helps the expansion of the horizon of geographical research in a better way. So now, when we have learned the concept of existentialism in geography, furthermore, in the lectures to come, we'll be learning more on idealism, realism, feminism, and postmodernism. So stay tuned, stay safe, and all my best wishes.